ahead and start this. So thanks for everybody for tuning in tonight. Brandon and I just have real quick presentation we're going to do for you all. A lot of what we are going to talk about tonight is already in your state officer candidate workbook and handbook that is online as a resource for you, but we're just going to answer any questions you have, maybe cover a few things in a little bit more detail. So with that, I'm going to pull up this PowerPoint. Maybe here. Alrighty. So if you at any point in time lose connection or whatever, go ahead and just shoot me a text at that number. We'll try and figure out what's going on. If you can't get the chat box to work and you want to ask a question, you can go ahead and text that question to me as well. We'll get all those questions answered for you. We'll probably wait for a lot of questions until the end, but if you have a question throughout our presentation, go ahead and ask it at the time so you don't forget to ask it later on. So obviously, Brandon and I are hosting you tonight. And first off, congratulations. It's a big step running for state office in the first place. And obviously, for those of you that have gone through this process and are here tonight, know that it's a really great growth opportunity to go through the interview process and to just be a state officer candidate. So congratulations for taking this step towards becoming a state officer. And kind of living out that living to serve motto that you can so that you can better serve our organization here in the future. So just a quick rundown on what this process looks like. So obviously you have filled out the application already, and now we are basically on to step 2 of the process. So interviews at the FFA Enrichment Center coming up here in basically a week and a half, 2 weeks. And we'll talk about each one of these rounds here tonight, but you can see those 7 rounds up on the screen. Those are the same 7 rounds that are talked about in the workbook as well. Moving on after that step, the ballot for state officers is announced at the State Leadership Conference business session. So that'll be on Monday morning beginning at 10 o'clock. If your name is put on the ballot, or if you are nominated from the floor, you will give a 2-minute speech, and then you'll answer 2 questions on stage before the delegate body, or if you're VP, before your district delegate body. Votes are then cast, election results are finalized, and then those final results are announced at the 4th session, the last thing of state convention. So a little bit of the timeline of interviews. So interviews for state officer candidates are going to be Wednesday and Thursday, April 13th and 14th. Start time is 8:45 in the morning on the 13th, and we hope to be wrapped up by about 1:15 on 8:45 on the 13th, wrapped up by 1:15 on the 14th. Attire throughout your interview process is official dress. While you're interviewing, obviously at the hotel, it's casual dress as soon as you get back to the hotel, but while you're interviewing at the Enrichment Center, go ahead and be in proper official dress during that time. At this point, if you have your selection workbook handy and available to you, maybe go ahead and pull that out because we will probably reference a few things out of that handbook. It might be handy to maybe jot notes down in, that sort of thing. In that that workbook that you have, there's questions on personal growth. And really some of the best preparation for this process is referencing those questions and kind of understanding how you would go about answering those. And understanding how to put those stories and those experiences that you've had into a concise 1.5 to 2-minute answer that really shows how you've grown through your FFA experience or through your experience of being in high school. Because these interviews aren't just about what you've done in FFA. They're what you've done to serve any organization that you've been a part of, and showing that growth that you've had and that ability to continue to grow.
Yep. All the questions will definitely be behavioral based. So being able to show that you've had an experience that relates to the different competencies that you'll be judged on by the nominating committee will be very important. The personal growth questions that you've been given inside of your workbook, the nominating committee will probably have an opportunity to look at those and be able to mold these questions. But every question that is created by the nominating committee will be molded off of the different competencies. So those will be important, and we'll get into talking a little bit more about those in a little bit.
So this little diagram I have up here on the screen right now is really the basis for what the interviewing is. So you have you and your own personal experiences, and then you have the 8 circles around that are the different areas that the nominating committee are going to be looking for. So obviously communication, being a team player, knowledge, all those up there on the screen, those are part of the competencies that they're going to be scoring you on throughout the process. So those are really great things to keep in mind of how you can have certain stories that might tell how you at a certain point in time were a team player, or what ways are you a good critical thinker. So those 8 competency areas are really important to reference when you're preparing for how you're going to interview. So the first one here, communication. Communication is 15% of your overall score based on how you interview. So communication isn't just how you speak. It's nonverbal skills. It's how well you listen, your ability to write, convey a message in a variety of different formats, whether it be speaking in a speech setting, speaking one-on-one in an interview, just speaking with an FFA member. All those different opportunities that you have to communicate, no matter what medium you're using, are all things that you can be scored on.
Yep. This competency itself is really important. It's a fairly good-sized chunk of the scores overall. When you are in the one-on-one interviews, and actually when you're in the 2 personal rounds, each nominating committee member will not be scoring every single competency. In fact, they're given a couple to score upon. But communication is one that, although every nominating committee member may not be scoring, they're definitely looking for. They're looking for the nonverbal. They're looking for how you present yourself in an interview setting. So being developed well in communication for the interview process is very important.
Team player. This one speaks for itself. Your ability to work in a team, how well you value different opinions, the diversity of opinion within a team, and your willingness to put the team before yourself, and maybe put others within the team before yourself as well. So that kind of inclusion of the people around you. Obviously, as a state officer, you're going to be working with 8 teammates throughout the year to put on functions. So being a team player and being able to work with a variety of different personalities is a very important aspect of the interview process, and understanding how you as an individual fit into that mold.
Right. So talking a little bit about team player, this will obviously be assessed in the group interview round that you'll have as one of the 7, but this will also be assessed in those behavioral questions that we were talking about earlier. So conveying that you are a team player through the one-on-one interviews and the 12-on-1 interviews is very important, just besides the group interview. So
remember, if at any point you have questions about anything, go ahead and put those up in the chat box or send me a text. Areas of knowledge. So this is one that gets scored a lot in the stand and deliver rounds, and the written practicums are the 2 big areas for this, but obviously your areas of knowledge are going to be tied in throughout the interview process as well. So those hot topic areas, this is one spot where those hot topic areas really come into play. Being able to articulate well your information that you have about agricultural education, some of the challenges that are facing agricultural education. Really take a good long look at those hot topic areas out of the workbook, and make sure you have a variety of background information on those.
Absolutely. This is one that will be assessed in the hot topics like Michael talked about. It'll also be assessed in the general knowledge test, but the general knowledge test will not just be the hot topics. They'll cover all 3 topics that we cover as we cycle through different years of the state officer process, which are, of course, agricultural knowledge, FFA, and American education. So,
like Brandon said, the agricultural education is the main focus this year, but obviously information on agriculture in general and FFA are both important things to have with that, because the knowledge test is an area of that. And that will have all three on it. Organization. So this one basically falls into how well you can not organize your own schedule, but how well you can basically manage your time in order to pull off functions with a team, in order to pull off functions as a state officer working with maybe a district advisor or a district officer team. So being able to break down those big projects into smaller pieces and utilize a calendar, utilize all those different time management tools in order to work productively and not get behind on things.
Right. The biggest thing, so if you're in the one-on-one interview, or if you're in the 12-on-1, or in any activity throughout the interview process, two, I would say, the most important things, and two things that they will possibly ask you, I would say, is being able to convey how you manage your time, whether that's through calendar, like Michael talked about, whether that's online through Google Calendar or any other format, being able to show that you manage it somehow. On top of that, showing how you manage conflicts in your time management will also be important. There will likely be a question that talks about you have multiple things going on. How do you solve it as your role as a state officer? So talking about how you go about managing conflicts because you are a busy individual will be very important.
Mm-hmm. And it's really important with that transition for a lot of you to college, making sure that organizational piece is there so you don't get swamped by that first semester of college along with the officer duties that you might have as being a state officer, or that you will have as being a state officer. Character. So this is the biggest chunk of the pie when it comes to what they're scoring for. And this is really just displaying who you are as a person. There's no hidden trick to interviewing for character. It's all about just having, just conveying who you are, being confident in who you are, and just being genuine is overall what the nominating committee would be looking for is how genuine are you, and how do you in your everyday life exhibit that you are a person of character.
Yeah, Tupper took the words right out of my mouth. Essentially, this is the competency that you should definitely be the worst, or the least, sorry, not the worst, the least worried about, because it is just conveyed through your genuine ability to interview, and you really shouldn't worry about it too much. Just be yourself in the interview process, and there shouldn't be any issues with this.
Passion for success. So displaying personal attributes that are courageous and passionate while carrying out the mission of FFA. So basically just having that passion for the organization and not striving for anything less than your best is really the best way to describe what this competency kind of looks for. We all know that what it looks like when somebody's passionate about what they're talking about. Their eyes light up. They're excited. They might speak a little bit faster in their voice, and just conveying that passion that you have for the organization and what you hope to do in the future, and also what you have done in the past.
Absolutely. Yep.
Influence. So basically how much of a positive influence are you on your peers, and how well can you motivate FFA members? How well do you work with people that might look up to you? As a state officer, you're in a natural position of influence, and how you need to convey to the nominating committee, how do you best leverage that influence to make a positive impact on the organization?
Yep, absolutely. This is, in my mind, this competency is really similar to team player in the fact that it will come into play in the group interview round, but besides the group interview round and in any of the other interview rounds that you're part of, trying to relay how you influence people through the answers to your behavioral questions will be important.
Critical thinking. So this is all about the way I best think about critical thinking is how well do you take the initiative in order to solve problems, and to be a self-starter with that. So when you're a state officer, you don't always have all the information you need, And sometimes you have to fill in the gaps when it comes to maybe you're doing a new activity, or when you're planning state convention, something might get changed from the year before. So being able, being able to fill those gaps in and really come up with creative ideas and creative solutions is really where the critical thinking piece comes into play.
Absolutely.
Now we'll talk a little bit about what each round entails. So that's number 2 here on the bullet. So round 1, the personal interview round. This is a 1-on-12 interview. So you will be in a room with the 12 nominating committee members, and they'll ask you 3 to 5 questions. The purpose of this is basically to get to know you, your goals, your motivations, the reasoning why you want to be a state officer. The best tip I have is the one I'll put here on the screen. Just make a good first impression in that first interview, so then the nominating committee remembers you throughout the entire process.
Yeah, although they're not everything, first impressions are extremely important to be memorable. The 12 individuals that are serving on the nominating committee are going to be seeing a lot of faces in a short 2-day span. It's difficult for them to actually remember every single individual. So standing out in the first impression is very important, and giving them a reason to remember your name and remember your face will help you get on the ballot.
So these are some questions that could be utilized by the nominating committee. These are the types of questions that will be used. Obviously, these probably aren't the exact questions that will be used, but being able to understand that and do that self-reflection on how you would go about answering these beforehand is going to help you answer any of the questions that the nominating committee chooses to ask you in that first round.
Yep.
All right, multiple choice test. So this is a 60-question test. You get 45 minutes to answer those 60 questions, and these will be over the 3 topic areas of FFA, agricultural education, and agriculture. This multiple choice test will have questions on it that are on the resources that you have in your handbook already and that are on the State Officer Candidate webpage. So if you reference those different websites, you'll be very well prepared for this exam and for this test. I'm the one developing this test, and I'm going to be pulling questions right off of those resources. So if you take the time to do the background work and study those different areas, you will do absolutely fine on this test.
Absolutely.
And then these are some of the resources that I'll be using. I'll make sure that these links are completely updated, and then I'll be emailing this PowerPoint out to all of you, so then you can reference it as you prepare. Writing exercise. So this will be on this writing exercise will come from the focus area of agricultural education. So those hot topics is where this comes into play. A lot of this is your ability to convey a message very quickly via writing and be very concise, and then obviously grammar is a part of that as well. As a state officer, you do a lot of correspondence via email. You'll have to write out press releases,
thank you letters,
and that grammar is a really important piece to that. So that is one thing we'll be evaluating here in round 3.
Yeah, one question I've been asked before about this writing exercise, and it carries over into the stand and deliver, is thinking about the hot topics. How in depth do they go as far as the topic? So if the topic is one thing, how deep into that topic will the actual topic for your speech or for your writing practicum go? The best piece of advice that I can offer for that is trying to develop perhaps a quick sheet or something, 5 facts that relate to each topic. Generally, each topic will literally just be just as it's written, and it won't go too much further in detail per se. So if the topic is like if the hot topic, I'm not familiar exactly what they are, but if one of them is case learning, then your stand and deliver scenario maybe you're talking to a group of people about, or at the Iowa State Fair, about what case learning is all about. So just having 5 facts or 5 pieces of information that you can draw into your speech is definitely a good start for how you go into that. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think Brandon hit it right in the head when he said kind of have a 5 quick facts in those areas that you can reference and know. I think breadth of knowledge is better than knowing a lot about an individual topic.
Yep.
Just getting a lot of that background information so you can speak to a variety of audiences and know a piece of information about that topic and be able to have that conversation.
Right. And talking a little bit more about the hot topics, it's okay to know what's going on, but with a hot topic that relates to the teacher shortage in Iowa, it's more important to know why it's happening. So being able to draw, what is the cause of this and, how's it happening? But like I said, the why is the more important, and being able to convey that to the panel of professionals that will be reviewing your writing exercise and working with stand deliver is very important.
And I'll go back here for a second. Okay, never mind. We're not talking about stand delivery yet. So the hot topics are here on the screen. These are all really important to agricultural education right now in the state of Iowa. So you can reference that. The Teach Ag website will be a really good one to reference for these hot topics in particular, but there'll be other resources as well that you'll be able to get information on these. Round 4, the one-on-one interviews. So this is where the nominating committee will break up into individual pieces, and you will go to each one of the interviewers and have a one-on-one conversation with them. So it's 3 minutes long. They ask you 2 to 3 questions during that. And really what they're looking for is how well can you have that conversation in a one-on-one setting and make it really feel like a conversation. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. Being able to connect with the nominating committee member in this one-on-one situation is important. It's the best way that I can kind of relate to this exercise round, or the nominating committee has showed in the past, is that it's kind of like speed dating. But the most important thing is to make the deepest connection that you can with that person with the only 3 minutes that you have. So conveying the competencies and connecting with that person on an individual level will really help you as you transition into the last interview round, because once you get into that round, you'll be able to, now that you've talked to each nominating committee member on a one-on-one level, that'll be important for them to remember you after the second interview round going into deliberation.
So these are just a few questions that could come up. These are the types of questions that you'll get asked during the one-on-ones. And as you can see, they're kind of formatted in more of a way that it's just, tell me about this experience, not particularly a question. Right. So some more here. Group activity. So this activity obviously kind of analyzes how well you work in a group. And a lot of the format will basically be, they'll give you a scenario when you come into the room. You'll have a certain amount of time to prepare for that scenario with your team. And then you'll have a certain amount of time to present that scenario in a presentation style format. So what this comes down to is how well do you value other people's opinions when you're going through that activity? How well can you convey your own opinion to the other members of your team? And then ultimately, how well can you execute as a team in that presentation style?
Right. Building off what Tupper said, one of the most important pieces of this group interview round is being able to take input that other people in the group give and really boil it down to make an idea that everyone can agree with as you're going through this presentation. You'll have, I said 15 minutes on there, but I'm trying to remember exactly how it all works. You have a certain blocked amount of time to prepare for the presentation, and you have the presentation itself. As a nominating committee member, I'm going to be looking more at how you prepare for that presentation. If the quality of the presentation itself is lacking in some areas, I won't necessarily be looking at that at that part. The part where you and your team members are working together in preparation for this project or this presentation is going to be more value to the nominating committee than the rest.
Yeah, and good point with that, because we know that if you only have, say, 7 minutes to prepare for a presentation with 5 people that you just came into a room with, it might not be the best when it's executed, but the background work in doing that and leading up to it can still be very good. It's just that you don't have time to actually practice that presentation. So, like you said, focus more on the prep time and worry less about the actual presentation aspect. Advocacy, stand, and deliver. Everybody's favorite favorite part. So this one is you get 20 minutes to prepare an extemporaneous style speech over one of the hot topics. So the speech is 3 minutes long, and then you get asked 2 to 3 questions by the panel of judges, and 5 minutes to answer those questions. So the purpose of this is how well can you convey a message in front of a crowd. The thing I like to think about with this is that as a state officer, you're going to be in situations like at the Iowa State Fair or even at State FFA convention where you're interacting with people in an everyday passing by fashion, and you might only have 3 minutes to convey a message about agricultural education, about a certain issue that's come up in the agricultural field. And how well can you think on your feet to come up with the information you need in order to convey a positive message, not only about agriculture, but also FFA. So this is more of a, I don't want to say a conversational style speech, but you kind of have to keep that in the back of your mind, that this is kind of a scenario that you'll get put into as a state officer to convey that message in a short period of time and then answer a consumer's questions on that topic and do it in a concise manner.
Yeah, one thing that I think about stand and deliver is that this is the one that people get probably the most nervous for overall as a candidate. But this is one thing that you can, out of all the interview rounds, in my opinion, really prepare for. This one in the general knowledge test. But you can prepare for this one by being well in tune with the hot topics and then practice. Let's say have a friend or have another candidate. Have your FFA advisor write down different scenarios for the stand and deliver, and then just practice what it's like to only have 20 minutes of preparation and then deliver a 3-minute speech. And just that experience in itself, if you haven't had the experience to be a part of the extemporaneous speaking CDE or in speech or anything else, having that experience is very important in preparing for this round.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are the hot topics. These aren't FFA. I forgot to change that on the PowerPoint. I'm far from perfect. So personal round 2, again, is basically just like personal round 1, but this is your last chance you have with the nominating committee. So it's really about leaving that last example or that last impression of yourself and who you think you truly are and why you think that you would make an outstanding state officer. So talking a lot about that character. They're going to be looking a lot for character in that one. And a lot of it boils down to sharing that experience in life, both in FFA, but also outside of FFA. We as FFA members, we enjoy our time in the Blue Jacket, but ultimately the purpose of FFA is to prepare us to make an impact in our community beyond our time in the Blue Jacket. So being able to maybe share examples that come into play with that as well, will leave that lasting impression with the committee.
Yep. This second personal interview round will be based around the 3 things you see on the screen, which is character, passion for success, and influence. But also, we'll talk a lot about your goals and how you as an individual are a goal-minded person, which is really important to have as a state officer. Another thing that I can say about this round is that if you have not had the chance to really make a lasting impression on the nominating committee, this is your last chance before they go right into deliberations, which happens almost immediately after this personal round 2. So, if you feel like you haven't made that connection with the nominating committee members, trying to figure out how you're going to make that last impression with that last chance will be important.
Yeah. So these are some of the questions, again, that could be asked during that last personal interview round. So that brings us back here to the end of number 2 here on the flow chart with 3, 4, 5, and 6 happening at convention.
Yeah, if we could pause right here real quick. One thing that I would exercise, or that I would, I guess, say, as a state officer candidate, you're very busy in the month, ending the month of April and then going straight into May. And this really falls into play if you do happen to get elected to state office, is trying to figure out how you're going to balance your time, especially if you're a graduating senior, with trying to graduate. You're dealing with scholarships, you're dealing with, these 2 days for interviews, 2 days for convention. And then if you get elected, you have SLCDO, enrichment training, all these other things. So one thing that I would encourage, actually, and I did this as a state officer candidate last year, if you have some high school work that you could be accomplishing, make sure that, bring it with you. When I was done with my first personal interview round, one thing I did was work on a couple of school projects, and it really helped me, bring me down a little bit from the high that I experienced in the interview room, and it really just kind of helped me connect a little bit more with myself and just try to get out of that interview phase, I guess. But I guess the pro of this is, one, you can kind of take a step away from the interviews for a little bit and kind of recollect yourself. And at the same time, you can get some of that work done. That way you're not too bogged down the weekend before state convention.
I would agree with that. Whether you're a senior in high school or a college student, for you seniors in high school out there, it's going to be towards graduation time, and you're already going to be missing 2 days of school the following week. So any work you can get done while at interviews is perfectly fine.
And I've already heard stories of a couple of you that have prom in between interviews and conventions. So like I said, using all the time that you have while you're interviewing at the Intercom Center will be important.
I was lucky. My prom was after. So, so this kind of gets into the scoring and how the point totals get added up between the two. So 60% of of your score is based off of the nominating committee score that you get. So with the other 40% coming from the delegate body, so there's a higher weight put on the nominating committee score than there is on that popular vote at state convention.
Right. I've been asked quite a few times, how exactly does this happen? How did we, wait, how is this for 16? How is this for 40? What's the mathematical way for figuring that out? And without going too in depth, essentially, while you're interviewing, theoretically, there is this perfect score. No one will actually get this perfect score, but there's this perfect score. And then there's a score that you have. So there'll be a percentage. And all they do is take this percentage, we multiply it times 60%. And then when you go to convention and you're balloted, they take the number of votes that you get out of the total votes count, and that's a percentage. So you take these two percentages, you multiply them times their factors, you mix them together, and that's how you get your election score, which will be essentially compared against the people that are balloted you in the same position. So.
Yeah, you explained that way better than I would have, so it's a good thing you're here. At this point, if you have questions at all, go ahead and put those in the chat box. It looks like we have one question here right now.
Okay, so one individual asked, can we bring facts in the preparation room for stand and deliver for our 3-minute speech? That is not allowed from recalling from last year. Essentially, while you're in the preparation, so there'll be 3 rooms that are involved for the stand and deliver process. One will be the room that all the candidates are in. The second room will be the preparation room. And when you go into that room, you'll have nothing with you per se, but you'll be given a pen and you'll be given note cards to work with in the preparation room. When your 20 minutes is up, you'll be asked to leave all the materials that you've worked with in the room, and then you yourself, the individual, will just travel to the next room and give your 3-minute speech in front of the panel. So you won't have any resources coming into the prep room. You will be able to think in your mind and use the note card and the pencil and pen to kind of recall those resources that you have, and then you'll be transitioned right into the next room.
Yeah, this is where it really comes into play, having those 5 facts memorized and having them be facts that you can kind of use no matter what the topic is, is my best tip for that, because that shortens the amount of statistics that you have to have memorized.
Right.
Obviously, you're going to have a base knowledge on what those topics are, and you're going to be able to speak eloquently about them, but having a few statistics that you can sprinkle into that speech is really going to set you apart from somebody that just gets up there and just kind of speaks, doesn't really have any statistical evidence to back any of that up.
Right. Yeah. So statistics are very important. Drawing from some sort of source and showing that you have done the research on all the topics is important. Another thing that you can do to add to your speech, and one thing that we received training on actually as state officers from national officers and from people at Blastoff and LCSO, is to have some sort of story or introduction to a speech that you have not necessarily memorized or cookie cutter, but something that you have kind of prepared and something that you can relate to all the different hot topics. So that way you have something that you can kind of start out with, if that makes sense. So having that short little story, or so if the hot topic is the teacher shortage, talking about how if I was an individual that had 4 or 3 teachers in the last 4 years of my high school, talking about how you've seen the effects. And then once you're done with that, you can talk about these are the stats for all these different things, and then moving forward. And that's one way that you can kind of lay out the information in a speech. So
Yeah.
just some input.
Another quick thing on the scan and deliver. A lot of people worry about not having enough information. Some of you might worry about going too long. I'm kind of one of those that's a little long-winded.
Yep.
So I had to really practice on keeping it at that 3 minutes, because 3 minutes sounds like a long time, but once you get speaking, 3 minutes isn't that much time to convey a message. So if you tend to be long-winded, you really need to practice getting however many points you want to get across in your speech. You need to practice getting those done in 3 minutes, because they will call time, and you'll finish whatever sentence you're on, and that will be it. So you won't be able to. They won't let you continue after those 3 minutes are called. You'll basically be able to finish your thought.
Right. So do we have any more questions? That was just one question for an individual. And kind of wait around a little bit, see if anyone's anything else. The time is currently 7:09.
I'll make sure nobody checked. Nope. You texted me. Otherwise, if nobody has any further questions, I'll offer that if you do have questions, you can email me. You have my phone number there. I think my phone number is here on the last slide too, possibly. Except that's not the right phone number. Don't call that one. That's Abra's phone number. Or you can call that one. That's fine. I'll go back here to the beginning with my phone number. Maybe. That's funny. Come on. Oh my goodness. Maybe. There we go. There's my phone number. You can go ahead and call me over the next 2 weeks. Email me, whatever. I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you all have. That's what we as state officers are here for, is to make sure that you have the tools you need in order to be as successful as possible.
Absolutely. So, and if you have any questions for me, don't be afraid to reach out to me. All my contact information is on our website, iowaffa.com. I'd be more than willing to answer any of your questions.
Yeah, so as I said, I'll be sending a follow-up email out probably tomorrow that will have a link to this recorded session on it. I will also include the PowerPoint in that email too, and then any other information that you want, you can request that from me.
Absolutely.
So thank you for tuning in tonight. Other than that, good luck with interviewing here coming up in basically 2 weeks.